Hey there everybody, Matthew George here, CCIE 38216, and I am the founder of the free CCNA Workbook website. In this video I want to talk to you guys about the Stub Lab and how you guys can actually get free access to a Cisco lab. Now, originally the Stub Lab used to be my personal CCIE lab, but I passed the CCIE lab exam back in February of 2013. And after I passed, I had all this equipment sitting in a rack. And I said, hey, it's going to be a good idea if I make this equipment available to everybody for free that is interested in pursuing Cisco certifications. Some people don't have the money to afford equipment like this, and with that in mind, I thought it would be a good thing to give back to the community. So, first off, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Stub Lab and the devices in the Stub Lab. For example, router 1 is a Cisco 2811. It has 512 mega RAM and 512 mega flash, and it's currently running 15.14 M7, and it has the advanced IP services feature set on it. Now, all the 5 routers are identical except for router 1. Router 1, however, doubles up as a Cisco Call Manager Express router because it has the Call Manager Express software on it, as well as the Unity Express module inside of the router. The lab also has 4 3560 multi-layer switches, 24 ports, and they're running 12.255 SE8 IP services. And the lab also has 2 firewalls, a pair of 5505 ASAs running 913, and those are Security Plus licensed as well. For those of you who are curious about what the lab looks like, scroll down here, and this is an actual picture of the Stub Lab. So when you log into the lab, you're actually logging into this hardware. And as you can see, the routers here, the 2811s with the T1 modules, the console server, which is an open gear, the power distribution unit, which is a APC power master switch, which gives the ability to control the power to every one of these devices separately. The 4 3560s, and of course the 2 ASAs on the bottom here. Now, in order to access the Stub Lab, you need to go to the Stub Lab schedule portal. You can access that by clicking the button here. However, if you visit the website, the quickest way to get to it is by clicking on the link here at the top that says Stub Lab schedule portal, and it will take you to the schedule portal. Excuse me. So what we have here is the schedule portal login page. Now, the schedule portal was a custom-built web application that I had a friend do for me, and basically what it does is it maintains the database for booking and authentication for the lab devices. So if you're new to the Stub Lab and you need to register an account, click here to register, and some information is needed, such as your name and your email address. Now, one of the caveats is that this has to match. These have to be identical, and they are case sensitive. So if you have one letter capitalized in the top one and not in the bottom one, it will not create an account. Also, the email address that you use here when you register is the same username that you would use to access the lab devices when you go to access the lab. And I'm going to create a password here that only I know, because I am just that cool. Helps if I type it in correctly. And of course, I got to accept the terms of service, which basically states that I'm not going to do anything malicious to the lab devices, such as leave passwords on the devices or erase the flash, or something that would prevent users in the future from accessing the lab. So I'm going to go ahead and click register here, and basically it pops up saying, hey, your account's been created. Check your email to confirm your account. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK here, and it just takes me back to the login page. But also, I just received an email, and it just popped up. Here it is. To confirm your Stub Lab account, click on the following hyperlink, and if you click on it, what's going to happen is it's just going to bring up another window here. It says your account has been confirmed. You may now log in using the email address and password that you used. When you click OK, it's just going to redirect you back to the Stub Lab schedule portal website here. So let me exit out of this stuff here, and now I can log in using my username and password that I just created. And if you want, you can keep your account logged in for 5 days if you just want to click on this right here and click login. And now you are presented with the homepage of the schedule portal, and this page here has two separate little diagrams here, or boxes. The first part being the announcements, which basically is going to say, hey, we are doing lab maintenance, or there's different types of things that need to be told to all the users. For example, recently I've had problems with users creating multiple accounts to bypass the scheduling restrictions. However, everything that you do on the Stub Lab is logged, so if you are breaking the rules, you will get banned. There's also a donate button here, and that is because electricity is not free. I live in Massachusetts of the United States, and we have one of the highest electricity costs in the country, and it costs about $4 a day to actually run the Stub Lab from a power perspective. So any donation is greatly appreciated. That will definitely go to paying the electric bill. And then the next section down here, the Stub Lab system status, which basically tells you the status of all the lab devices. The console server shows us online, and the APC master switch, which is the nice little black box that I showed you in the picture earlier, that allows you to be able to control the power to every one of the devices separately. And then of course the lab actually has a UPS battery backup, and it will actually tell you right here whether or not the lab is running on grid power or if it's running on battery. And of course, you also have the ability to determine whether or not from the home page here if the lab devices are currently powered on or off. So one of the first things you're going to want to do after you've created an account is go to My Settings and change your time zone settings. By default, it is set to -12 hours from UTC. This is because the Stub Lab actually is using the UTC time zone. Excuse me. So I'm going to drop that down to Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to change that to a 12-hour time format. And I'm just going to click Update Settings. And once that is done, you then have the ability to go in and view the lab schedule matrix. Basically, this is going to show you all of the available time slots that you can reserve lab time for free. And for an example here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on, let's say, March 26, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And that is my time because of my time zone. And I'm going to click on that, and what's going to happen is it's going to refresh the page, and it's going to prevent me from reserving any other lab session. And as soon as I did that, I received an email saying, hey, you recently reserved a session on the Stub Lab. The session start and end time, along with links to the different types of information relating to the Stub Lab. And if you have any questions, you can contact us at support@freeccnaworkbook.com. Now, you have the ability to delete your reservation if you want. If you can't access the lab at that time, then it's also helpful to allow other people to use the lab during that time instead of just keeping the reservation tied down. You can just delete that reservation, and somebody else will be able to go in and reserve that same session. If you reserved the wrong lab session, you can delete the reservation and go back to the lab session and pick a different session here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the same one again, March 26, 4 to 7 p.m. And with that being done, I now have a lab session reserved. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to demonstrate how to connect to the lab devices. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up PuTTY real fast. Let me open it up here and drag it over here in the window. And in order to connect to the lab devices, you have to use the DNS name, stublab.freeccnaworkbook.com. And it's going to be Telnet, not SSH, Telnet. And the port numbers are going to be based on the lab device that you want to access. So if you're accessing router 1, the port number is 2001. If you want to access router 5, the port number is 2005. Switch 1 is 2006, and so on and so forth. You actually have, on the support page here, going down, it actually tells you right here, if I can get to it, my mouse is a little happy here, it actually tells you the port numbers for each device that you can connect to. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to router 1 here real fast, and it pops open in the other screen, and I'm going to log in using my email address that I used to log into the schedule portal, and press enter, and it's going to pop up with a banner saying, hey, welcome to the Stub Lab. If you have any questions, check out the links and the terms of service. And then I'm going to type in my password and press enter. And now it's going to say, hey, welcome, email address, you are connected to port 1 on the console server, which is router 1. So if you press enter a few times, nothing happens. This is because the lab devices are turned off by default. Every time that you log into a new session, all of the lab devices will be powered off. An easy way to tell that the lab devices are turned off is if you go back to the home page here, you'll actually see that, hey, router 1 is powered off. So in order to power on router 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press enter one time, and then I'm going to use the following key combination that I'm going to display right here. And this is what's going to bring up the power menu right here. So if I type that in right here, this is what comes up. Sometimes if you do it and it does not come up, press enter again and try to type in the power menu combination to get it to come up again. And now you have the ability to power on or off the device, or power cycle it, or display the current status. So if I press S, and it's going to query the status, it says, hey, outlet 1 is currently off. So if I type the capital letter, this is case sensitive, if I type capital letter O for on, it's going to power on the router. And if you press enter, it's still going to be at the power menu. So you have to press period to exit the power menu. And now it will continue to boot up the router. If you go back to the schedule portal right here and click on the home key again, it will actually show you that router 1 is powered on. This is just a pretty cool little feature. And you can do this independently for every lab device. I am working on a way currently to power on all the lab devices at once. However, I'll let you guys know when that works later down the road. Excuse me. And so basically that is how to create an account, how to reserve lab time, and actually how to log into the lab and power on the devices. So once you get PuTTY sessions established to all of the lab devices, you have the ability to go through and do any of the labs that are found on the free CCNA Workbook website. And keep in mind, the Stub Lab topology can be found right here on the website. This is the physical topology. So it tells you what devices are connected to what other devices through serial or fast Ethernet, as well as the inner switch links, which are the crossover cables between each of the switches. And you also have the ability to download the topology in Visio if you want it. So let me pop PuTTY back open here, and you can see the router is booting up, and once that is booted up, you'll have the ability to access the lab from a configuration perspective. Most of the commands are unrestricted. However, there are a few commands that you cannot do, such as format flash and debug all and stuff like that. So that way it does not harm the lab devices. So if you do try to do commands like that, it will actually kick you off of the lab device and power down the lab device. So if you do it, it's just going to kick you off and it's going to be frustrating. So be careful and just try not to mess up anything, for the other people that try to use the lab. So as you can see, the router is almost finished booting here, and I'm going to go back to the schedule portal here real fast. And basically, this is the Stub Lab. This is how it works, and this is how you can get free lab time. So I definitely hope this video has been helpful for you guys, and I definitely look forward to you guys using the lab. And if you have any questions, you can email me personally at matthew.george@freeccnaworkbook.com. And with that being said, be sure to donate. Like I said, the lab is electricity is not free. So, but other than that, in order to access the lab, that is free. So, I appreciate you viewing the video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a message on the Facebook page or shoot me an email. Take care, guys.